my mom told me that she had my uncle's number, and that's my dad's brother. So I reached out and contacted my uncle, and he lived in Kansas City, Missouri at the time. And so this is John McCool's brother, Willie McCool. That's my uncle's name. So I reached out to him, and I don't even think I talked to him the first time. I just left a message on his voicemail. And he called back like a couple hours later, and I wasn't there, so he left a message on our voicemail saying, "Oh man, I'd really like to talk to you. You know, we love you. We really want to meet you and everything like that." And I'm all like, "Right on. You know, that's cool. You know, my dad's giving me the cold shoulder, but his brother isn't. You know, that's right on." And so I start talking to him on the phone, and just telling him, I really wish I knew my dad. I want to come down there and meet you. And he's all, "Well, you're more than welcome to come and meet me. I live in Kansas City, Missouri." And I'm like, "Right on. That's cool. And that was the main point, is just establishing communication with that side of my family, because I didn't know anybody or anything like that. Well, my Uncle Willie ended up calling his sister, and I think her name's Mary McCool, and they all call her Sissy. And they're all from Louisiana, so they had that Louisiana accent. And I think the side of their family is Irish and Italian. And so she ends up calling me, and we talk and everything like that, and she's crying, and she's like, "We really want to meet you. We've heard a lot about you. We wish we could really meet you," and da da da. And so, I'm thinking, man, this is pretty cool. This is really cool. And as time went on, I started thinking like, well, why does my dad give me the cold shoulder and reject me, and his wife reject me, but then my uncle and my aunt, totally accept me? And so it made me really think about things, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe there's a conflict or something going on. Something's got to be going on. So, I called him a few times, and that was that. But my main goal was to get down there and meet everybody so I could meet that side of my family. And if my dad didn't want to meet me, I totally understand. But I still wanted to meet my uncle and my aunt and everybody else in the family. And so, so I'm still painting. I'm painting a lot of houses at the time and this and that. And, I'm selling a little bit of weed here and there. And I'm still smoking, but not like heavily like I did way back years before. I'm kind of like doing a little bit when I get off, maybe, like maybe a joint a day or maybe every other day. But I was still real big into working out. So even though I was selling weed and stuff like that, I was still really big into working out. I was focused on working out and eating, and just living a good life. And so we're staying there at my mother's house for a while, and I get to the point where I start buying pounds of weed and selling them. Well, a pound of weed is 16 ounces, and I think I was getting them for $600-700, and street value $1,600 for a pound of weed. So, I'm thinking, oh, well, this is a good way to make money, not realizing that it was a foolish way and it's totally against the law. And so I'm buying pounds of weed and selling them. Well, I bought like 2 pounds and sold them. Finally went and bought a 3rd pound, and I'm selling it. And I sold like 5 or 6 ounces, so I got about a good 10 ounces left. And I have like bongs, pipes, everything around, and stuff like that. And so I'm sitting on the bed one day, and I got a bowl loaded up, and my girlfriend's sitting right next to me, and we're sitting down there smoking a bowl of weed. And I took a couple hits off of it, and I just held it in my hand, and I looked down at it, and I instantly just had a thought, like, if I keep doing this kind of life, if I keep messing with all this stuff, my life's going to be nothing. I'm going to end up in prison or something. And that's just the thought that went through my head. And so I put the pipe down on the bed, and I turned towards my girlfriend, and I says, "You know what?" I says, "I'm done." And she just looks at me like, "What do you mean you're done?" And I says, everything I'm doing, smoking weed, selling weed, everything, I'm completely done with all this. I'm completely done. I'm totally done. I says, I'm not smoking anymore and I'm not selling weed anymore, nothing. I'm completely done. It all stops and ends right here, right now, on the spot. And she's just looking at me like, what the hell? And so I go in the other room and I call up my brother. And I said, Shiloh, I says, if you want this weed, I says, come pick it up. I says, you could have all of it. It's all free. I says, but if you're not here within the next hour, I says, I'm dumping it, flushing it all down the toilet. You know, I says, I'm completely done with smoking. And I says, you could take all these pipes too. I says, I'm quitting right here, right now, today. I'm not selling it. I'm not smoking it, nothing. It's not going to be no part of my life anymore. And so he says, well, don't flush it, I'll be right over. So I get off the phone with him, and then I go into my mother's room and I start talking to her. And I says, you know what, I decided to change my life. I says, I'm going to stop smoking weed. I'm going to stop selling it. I says, I'm completely done. I says, I'm going to change my life and I want to make something of my life, you know. I says, I've been up to no good. And I says, you know, and I started to apologize to her. And I says, you know, I'm sorry for all the headaches, all the everything I've put you through with being in jail, being on probation, causing all this drama, because really in my early years, that's all I really did was cause a bunch of drama, caused a bunch of issues for my mom to deal with. And you know, and I didn't want that, you know. So I was telling her, you know, forgive me, please, I'm sorry, you know, I'm gonna change my life. And I don't know if she believed me at the time when I told her, but that's what I told her. I poured my heart out to her and told her what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, and everything like that. And so sure enough, my brother came over that night, and he picked up the weed. I had like 10 ounces left. So the street value on this is $1,000. And I just let them all have it scot-free, you know. I says, take the weed, take the pipes, take everything. And I didn't even care that the weed was worth anything, you know. I really didn't care. I just had a thought to get it out of my life at the time, and that's all I knew. And it's crazy when I tell you I gave away $1,000 worth of weed for free. But I think this is a real big step and point in my life where, you know, I knew I had to change my life, and I knew that was the only way. I had to let it go. So I got rid of everything, and I cleaned out my room and everything. I didn't have one speck of paraphernalia left. I didn't have no rolling papers, no pipes, no nothing. I got rid of everything. Any old posters I had with weed pictures on it, everything. I got rid of everything that had to do with weed. Everything. And so I just decided, you know, I'm totally changing my life, and this is what it's going to be. And so I continued working for that paint contractor for a little bit longer, but I started looking more towards the aspect of long term. And my girlfriend's brother was working as an apprentice electrician, so he was in a trade. And apprenticeship, you had to be in it for 4 to 5 years. Electricians do 4 years, pipe fitters, plumbers, they do 5 years. They have iron workers trades, they have all different kinds of trades you could do, heavy equipment operators. And so I really wanted to get involved in a trade. And so one day me and her brother got to talking. His name was Caleb. We got to talking with each other, and I told him, man, I really want to join a trade, you know. I'd really like to join a trade because, you know, I know that's more than a job, you know. You can take that trade anywhere you want with you. And I was like, well, what do you recommend? And he says, well, you could be like an electrician like me if you want, or you could go the gay boy plumber side, you know. He was saying, and we were just laughing, we were just joking. But he said, you know, you could be an electrician or you could be a plumber, pretty much. And he says, there's other trades out there, but I really don't know them too much. And he says, or you could try to be a pipe fitter or a welder, I guess. He says, I don't know much about that, you know, but you could check into it. And so after talking to him, I really started to think about this. And I was like, well, I really want to join a trade, but I want to do something that, you know, that not very many people do, something that's kind of, you know, like when I tell somebody, they'll be like, oh, what's that? So I was like, maybe I'll be like a pipe fitter or a welder or something, you know. I'd really like to learn how to be a welder. And I knew nothing about welding at the time, you know. It was like way foreign to me. And I was like, well, maybe I'll check into this welding deal. I want to be a welder. And so during this time that me and my girlfriend was living in my grandfather's house before he died, I ended up getting my GED, and so did she. You know, we went and I went to a couple classes, and then I just thought, man, I just need to go take the test, you know, pass or fail, you know, whatever, just go. So I ended up getting my GED. And even while we're in that little house, one of my friends, Curtis, talked me into going to these college courses. It's for warehousing and distribution. And he says, it's down there at the community college and it's free. All you gotta do is sign up for it. And they says they're giving these courses for free, you know, because they want people to work at this Lowe's distribution center, but they want them to learn how to do warehousing and distribution. And I said, well, this is kind of funny because, you know, a couple of years back, you know, I was painting the Lowe's distribution center. But so I think I signed up with them, and I think it was a 3-month long course. You know, we had to go to night school and go through all this schooling, and we get a certificate for warehousing and distribution. And after you completed this course and everything, that you would get a guaranteed interview with Lowe's distribution center. And so I got the interview and everything after I completed that course, but they didn't hire me or nothing like that. So I just, you know, like, well, whatever. And that's why I end up, you know, continuing on to paint houses and stuff like that. So so after this time, you know, we're talking about you know, what kind of trade I could join, what I could get involved in, stuff like that. And so I contacted it's called Local 192 Steam Fitters or Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local Union. So I contacted them because they were the only place in Cheyenne, Wyoming that had a pipe fitter, welder type of trade. They also trained plumbers too. And so I put in an application with them, and you know, just hope for the best. You know, I had my GED and everything, so I just hope for the best pretty much. Well, we only stayed living at my mom's for a little while, you know, maybe 4 months or something. And my girlfriend's dad, he bought like some townhouses over on the south side. They were creating a new subdivision over there. And he was talking to me one day, and he's like, why don't you rent out one of my townhouses? And I was like, well, I don't know if I could do that. That's a lot of money. You know, they were real nice and stuff like that. He was renting them out for like $850. And he says, well, I normally rent them out for $850. He's all, since you're dating my daughter and everything, he says, I'll rent them out to you for $750, you know. And so I thought about this. And these townhomes, they're really nice, you know. They're really nice. They had sprinkling systems, brand new built and everything. 2 bedroom, 2 bath, you know, double car garage. And I was like, man, this would be really nice. This is like nicer than my mother's house or anything I've ever been in. And so so I says, all right. So me and my girlfriend, we end up moving into one of those townhomes and started renting it out. And, you know, I was just blown away by, you know, something so nice that we could rent. And I was just like, man, this feels nice, you know, renting this townhome, you know, compared to the lifestyle I come from, you know. We were poor. We had like our house was falling apart. You know, it was a real old house that we lived in growing up. So we moved into this house and everything, and during this time, you know, I'd always pick my girlfriend's dad's brain about stuff because he had a huge house. Like the house he lived in was maybe $600,000-$700,000 house. He had all kinds of rental properties. He had a 6-plex, a 4-plex, a few houses. He had a good job. He was an engineer for the railroad. His wife was a nurse, you know, and they had their stuff together, you know. My girlfriend I was dating, it's just like her family had money, you know, but they weren't raised with money, you know. So I always listened to him. I was always intrigued with what he had to tell me, and I always, you know, respected him and admired him. And you know, he was a man full of wisdom, and, you know, so I always paid attention to the things he told me. And so at this time, he was sharing with me real estate and the things he does to get his properties, the way he invests to get these properties and stuff like that. So I really paid attention to what he had to tell me, and just really focused on that. And whenever he had something wise to say, you know, I was always ears wide open, you know, listening to it. So during this time, me and my girlfriend are living in this townhouse, and I'm still painting houses for a living. and it's going all right, you know. And I work for the same paint contractor. I think it's 2.5 years. We're even working out on the Air Force Base, getting some good jobs. And I think at that time my pay went up, because when I first started it was $10, and it went up to about $11.25 with him. And so, but after 2.5 years worth of working for him, I got back my tax return, and it shows for the whole year I made like $24,000 or some $22,000. It wasn't very much money. And I just looked down at it and I was like, man. And I already applied for that union job to learn the apprenticeship and everything. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, I hope things change, you know, because I really would like to make some more money. And so at that time, you know, I ended up getting laid off with the paint company. They started running out of work, and I went to work for another paint company. They would do paint, like industrial painting. They were painting gas compression plants, and they were painting a gas compression plant out south of town. So I ended up going to work for them, and I think I worked for them for about 3 or 4 months or whatever, you know. And at this time I was still waiting to hear back on the union, and if they reject me, accept me if I get an interview or whatever. So and I think I was making $12.50 at this gas compression plant, but they were working like 7/10, so I was working every day of my life. But this was really helping out a lot, because, you know, I started making good money, you know. I was pulling in like $1,000 a week, and this really helped, you know, because, you know, I had to pay for that townhouse, you know, bills around there, me and my girlfriend. And my girlfriend ended up getting pregnant. And at the time she got pregnant, I was just thinking, like, I'm not really ready for a kid. I'm not mature enough, you know. And I says, what do you think we should do? And she says, well, I'm keeping it. And I just thought, well, okay, you know, there's nothing I could do. And I think we talked about it a little bit, and I was kind of like, I'm not mature enough, I'm not ready enough. But she was like, I'm keeping it, and there's nothing you can do about it. So there was really nothing that I could do about it. And so she's pregnant, and I'm working at this gas compression plant, and they're putting all kinds of smokestacks in, like all kinds of piping in it, and we're painting it. So I'm learning a lot about painting and stuff like that. And before I used to paint houses, but this time I'm learning about the industrial side, different coatings, different materials, stuff like that, epoxies, resins, and all kinds of stuff. So I'm working out there, and at this whole time I'm waiting to hear back on this this union job. Well, I think I waited like 2 months or something, 2.5 months, and then finally they sent out a letter to my house, and in the letter it says that that they're going to set up interviews so that I could come in and do an interview for the apprenticeship. And so I was like, right on, you know, this is awesome. And so I got an interview with them, and I go in, and, you know, they asked me what my intentions were, and before looking back, I was always like, you know, I just want a good job. I just want to make good money. I want to learn some new things. But now my whole aspect on everything changed. You know, I was like, I want to get a career. I have a son on the way, you know. I want to be able to provide for my son. I want to be able to change my life. I want to learn new things. I want to get my journeyman, and I think they were really blown away by all this, you know. So I told them all that. And when I went in to interview, there was other people there, so it was like multiple people were getting interviewed. And they said, okay, well, thanks, nice meeting you, Justin, this and that. Well, he says, we'll send you out a letter telling you what we come up with.